Hello everyone. So nowadays everyone is talking about how AI is going to steal your work. But in a recent video, if you watch my I think 2 videos ago, I said that actually it's not that AI is going to take all of the junior developers in the world, but actually the bar for what means to be junior raised, right? But actually, I wanted to bring you another perspective on this subject because the reality is the market lacks good developers. And the thing that I want for you to understand is where the market is lacking developers, right? So think about it. Think with me here. Back in the days, like 6 months ago, you are able to be hired for doing some really basic CRUD work, like some front end, some basic back end, connecting to a database, doing some create, read, update, delete, maybe some many-to-many relationships, and then you'll be paid, I don't know, here in Brazil, you'll be paid like 5,000 reais, maybe in US, something like that, 3,000, $4,000, and it makes sense at the best. But now, this very simple work is being automated by AI. Now, a senior developer, instead of hiring a junior developer to do that, we just hire cloud code, codecs, to do this very basic work. And that makes sense. Like if you think about the dynamics of profession and market, it makes a lot of sense. Because how in the hell in any profession with only 3 months of studying, 6 months of studying, and doing some very basic and operational thing, which was to build a front end, a back end, and a database very simple, you'll be hired earning $5,000, right? It doesn't make sense. So the previous market before AI was a very weird market where people could join and with very little effort could make a lot of easy money, right? It was an easy money market. You just study a few things, you learn algorithms and programming logic, and then you start earning a lot, right? But now this type of work, it's gone, right? It's gone. There is no other market where with only 6 months of studying you would be a specialist, right? With all due respect, with 6 months of training you'll be able to do some very basic normal day-to-day jobs. I don't know, packaging in the mail, I don't know, attending people in the supermarket, like these very basic jobs. So software development was a very strange market, right? Okay, what we do with this information, that's what I wanted to help you guys. Okay, so you need to understand what type of work is still valid, is still requires a lot of thinking and a lot of specialization for you to be able to be called a specialist and then generate value to a company, right? Definitely is not doing web development for basic CRUD anymore, right? So if you think about it, there are other types of sectors that you could focus, right? So let's think about some other roles. So for example, cybersecurity, right? With cybersecurity, the cybersecurity market, it just got bigger last year. Maybe also because of AI, people are doing a lot of messes, and then you need to hire more folks to pay attention to the security. Another example was infrastructure and advanced cloud. So setting up, instead of just deploying at Vercel, but actually creating infrastructure in AWS, GCP, Azure to handle a lot of requests and a lot of microservices in for example, a highly regulated market, for example, healthcare. So if you instead specialize in healthcare, for example, I have some friends that only because they work in a healthcare company in the past, now a lot of other healthcare companies want to hire them because they got very specialized in some tools that are very specific. For example, viewers, actually, for medical images. So you know when you do an X-ray and you see the X-ray in the computer and the doctor is doing a lot of things with the image, like that viewer, it's very hard to do. And I have a friend that worked a few months in the company in this project, and then a whole bunch of company wants to hire him for that. If you specialize in fintech, in finance, for example, a lot of banks actually prefer to hire people that are specialized in this because there are a lot of things that you can bring value only because you know how to operate in these highly regulated environments. So if you think healthcare, fintech, logistics, supply chain, cybersecurity, infrastructure, embedded IoT, for example, or doing machine learning, like real AI and machine learning, right? So you understand the pattern? All of these sectors that I described, all of these examples require a lot of knowledge that you cannot learn in 3 months. And that's why there are so few people there. And that's why if you have these abilities, if you have this value, then you can generate value and then you'll be paid as a specialist. Oh, Damon, but this is very hard. Welcome to the professional world. There is no way with only 3 months of work you'll be a specialist, right? So you don't need to get anxious because it's too hard. You just need to recalculate your route and your journey or your roadmap for growing in your professional, right? You don't need to learn everything all at once. You don't need to learn everything in deepness, but you need to at least get deeper in the fundamentals, right? So, for example, I have here an example of a roadmap that I built a long time ago before this AI hype. So I don't know how right it is, but basically, for example, after the entry level, so this is a roadmap I just realized this is in Portuguese. Okay, no, it's not in Portuguese. Only this title is in Portuguese. Okay, so it's a very generic roadmap for any type of specialization area inside of IT. So for after the entry level, you need a few basic things. For example, clean code. After the AI era, I don't know if that's a hard requirement, but for example, you need to know, for example, the design patterns. You need to know unit testing. You need to know how to debug. You need to know the surroundings. What I say surroundings. What is happening here? What is happening here? Okay. you need to know you need to know the surroundings. For example, if you work with JavaScript, you need to understand how the event loop and how the single thread thing works. If you work with .NET, you need to understand how the JVM of .NET and CLR transform your code into machine code. You need to know the surroundings, right? You need to get deeper and broader, and you need to do this step by step. And then to be a senior, you need, for example, know a little bit about operational system, a little bit about networking, a little bit about compilers, a little bit about database. And this is a very unique for myself journey. You need to know a little bit of philosophy, on metaphysics, okay, to understand how things are, how to define things, and have like this very philosophical thinking, right? So long story short, so this should be your new route. Understand that you're not a specialist and you need very intense study and working to be a specialist. Actually, there is this definition of what it is a specialist, right? The specialist is a guy who knows how to operate in a complicated and complex environment, as opposed to a simple environment. So imagine that two types of environment, a simple one and a complex one. A simple one is an environment that the relationship of cause and effect is known of by all of the parts of the system. So for example, a process for handling, so imagine you call to your mobile provider asking to cancel your line number. You just have to categorize this ask and then follow a process. So the process is very understandable. Any person can read the process and understand how it works and then execute the process. This is a simple environment. A complicated environment is a place where there is cause and effect, but there is so many cause and effects, and then have some relationship with each others, that you need someone with very deep theoretical and practical knowledge to look at this very big context. This is somewhat what LLMs are somewhat good doing for smaller contexts, but for really complex contexts, you need a specialist to see this environment and understand, okay, so here we need, I don't know, a queue, here we need a microservice, here we need a load balancer, and then you can kind of shape the correct solution of this complicated environment with software development. It takes years for be a relay specialist, right? It takes years. So just be in mind that if you have just starting in software development, your career might be in trouble. That's normal, okay? That's really normal. But just understand that you're not a specialist yet. You need to work hard and think hard, deepen your fundamentals, broaden the ecosystem of technology, understand how things will work, to then when you are presented to a complex situation, you'll be able to handle it, either in healthcare, finance, cybersecurity, DevOps, or any other sub area in IT. All right? Let me know in the comments which area you think you should focus, which area you think it's the new hype. Also, if you agree or disagree with me. All right? Thanks, and until the next video. Bye bye.